Have you ever been told to man up? Have you ever told yourself to be a man? According to the Oxford English Dictionary, to man up is to demonstrate toughness or courage when faced with a difficult situation, linking these fine qualities with men. The implication that toughness and courage are solely male qualities is somewhat questionable. Of course, being tough and courageous is non-gendered. However, I digress. What kind of man are you? In this episode number 2, we have a look at what it means to be a man. I'm going to explore the question by looking at identity, stereotypes, values, and role models. Welcome to Man Talk, a podcast of real conversations about life. Your life, our life, and the emotional well-being of men. My name is Howard Todd-Collins. I'm a psychotherapist in private practice, founder and host of Man Talk. How do you define yourself as the man you are today? You don't want to miss this one. Sit back and relax and join me for this latest episode of Man Talk. Hello. Welcome to episode number 2. We made it this far. I'm glad you're still with me. I hope you are well, wherever you are in the world. In fact, let me know where you're listening from. Which part of this huge planet are you listening to my dulcet tones through your ears? I'm sitting here in Melbourne, Australia, as you probably know. Let me know via Instagram or Facebook where you're listening from. But I'm here in Bayside, Melbourne, in Hampton, a suburb that's close to the beach, and we are well and truly into winter. It's a bit cold. It's not raining at the moment, which is a good thing, but it's certainly a bit nippy. So I'm sitting here with a nice cup of hot tea, asking you the question, what does it mean to be a man, or what kind of man are you? So why do I ask? It's a fairly simple question. Maybe it doesn't have such a simple answer. In a national survey here in Australia that was commissioned by the Victorian Health Promotion Foundation, they were looking at trying to gauge people's attitudes towards men and masculinity in particular. In the survey, most people agreed on a few basic principles: that traditional gender stereotypes can be limiting and harmful, in fact, for boys and for men, that there was some pressure on men to live up to traditional masculine stereotypes, and that masculine expectations and outdated ideas of masculinity were preventing men from living full lives. They also discovered that boys need both women and men as role models, rather than just men alone. It turns out that most Australians were quite receptive to alternative, healthy versions or broader versions of what it means to be a man today. So I'm asking the question, what kind of man are you? Because, well, I believe at the core of any real pursuit of personal development is the need to examine our own identity and embrace being challenged. I also believe it's healthy to have a desire to keep on discovering who we are, how we see ourselves, and in what ways are we being influenced. I don't want you to box yourself in or to label yourself or to restrict your view of yourself as a man. What I do aim to do in this episode, hopefully, is to get your juicy thoughts and reflections flowing along the path of your own self-development. There are so many different ways that people describe their gender identity. We are living in a time where there is a blurring of gender lines, and gender fluidity has made traditional notions of being a man almost obsolete. I'm sure, like me, you have had a variety of identity-forming experiences in your life. I know I have. From being that little fella to a pimply, hormonal adolescent, to the young adult who was taking risks with new adventures, to the mature, wise man that I am today. And I know that all of my experiences, and I'm sure your experiences, shape who you are. And they've no doubt come from your own family, your own peers, your own culture and community, and I'm sure they continue to influence you today in how you see yourself. Our sense of identity is so heavily influenced by stereotypes. Gender stereotypes are embedded into our culture, and they are often reinforced by role models and the media. Mass media, in fact, offers us some pretty startling characterizations of what it means to be a bloke. Various media researchers have argued that media portrayals of men or male characters fall into a certain kind or range of stereotypes. In an interesting report that I read recently from 2020, which was called "If He Can See It, Will He Be It?" Representations of Masculinity in Boys and Television. This is by the Geena Davis Institute of Media. It identifies some popular stereotypes, or what they call pillars. Now, these characterizations reflect culturally around the world how men are stereotypically supposed to act. And these pillars are reinforced in films, in movies, in books, in theatre, in commercials, in TV, and so on. And here are the 7 pillars. The first one is self-sufficiency, where men should just figure things out on their own without the help of others. The second pillar, or characterization of men, is acting tough. So a man should always defend his reputation and be willing to use physical aggression to do so. So men on TV in particular are less likely to show emotions compared to female characters, including the emotion of empathy. The third one is physical attractiveness, that essentially a man should be physically attractive but without any real effort, which sounds pretty good to me. Male characters are likely to be shown as particularly muscular in the media. The fourth characterization or stereotype was what they call rigid masculine gender roles, that men should engage in stereotypically masculine activities and embrace stereotypically masculine roles. So, for example, in many forms of media, men are less likely to be shown engaging in an active parenting role, for example, compared to their female characters. The fifth characterization was called heterosexuality and homophobia, that men should avoid being gay or to be perceived as gay. The sixth one is called hypersexuality, that men should value sexual conquest over intimacy. And the seventh one, aggression and control, that men should use violence to get respect and should always have the final say about decisions in a relationship. Now, these are not uncommon characterizations of men. They can be found not just in our media. Are they too limiting? Are they outdated? Do they influence you, the way you see yourself as a bloke? Or do you believe that gender identity should just be represented by much more diversity? How do you see yourself? Are you different when you're on your own or with your mates? What kind of man are you at work or with your partner or when you're in your relationship? Are you the macho man, the man not allowed to show any forms of weakness, who protects and provides, the one who opens tight jars and climbs ladders and kills bugs and defends his family with his own life? Are you the bloke with a rugged beard, chopping wood and cooking the most amazing steak on the barbecue, watching war films and goes to the football? Are you the man whose identity is centered around his family, to love, to support, and provide for them? Is your masculinity defined by your drive and your motivation and your compassion to show love and talk about it openly and not afraid of hugging or showing affection? Are you the guy who is kind of stuck in a friendship group, who communicates to each other via jokes and insults at each other's expense, who talk about sport and work and the TV and maybe your car? Or are you the guy that can do that and still compliment his friends and how they look and talk about his feelings and even cook for your partner? Are you the man who can cook and clean and buy tampons for his partner or his daughter without blinking an eye? That you wear both pink and blue, that you can cut down trees, split logs, fix your car, run into a burning house, mow the lawns whilst building a cubby house, knitting a scarf, and you can always make time to listen to your wife, your partner, your kids whenever they need you. I don't know about you, dear listener, but being a bloke comes in all shapes and sizes and could be a tad confusing. There are so many expectations. Is your identity heavily tied up with your career, or your role at home, or your business, or your profession, or your friendships, or your wealth, or your past, or what car you drive? What's the identity or the identities that you hold up as most important for you? This question of manhood, so to speak, could also be shaped by values and character traits. I posed the question to a men's group some time ago in terms of what does it mean to be a man? And the most significant question really that came up was, is there a difference between being a good man and a real man? Now, in this first part of it was the question of what does a real man mean? What are the qualities that we are assumed to have? How are we supposed to speak and act? How are we supposed to behave? So some examples that came out of the discussion about real men. We discussed things like taking charge, being authoritative, taking risks. It means suppressing or not showing any kind of weakness. It means talking like a kind of warrior man, a man who is non-talkative, who is silent and strong, tough, calm, hard, courageous, unemotional, responsible, predictable, unforgiving, powerful, and confrontational. These were the values or characteristics under this kind of definition of a real man. Now, in the same discussion, we talked about what does it mean to be a good man? Is it different to being a real man? What are the qualities? What are the values? What do good men do or say? And we came up with these ideas of good men being caring, putting other people's needs first, being honest, empathetic, generous, kind, loving, open, patient, compassionate, a good listener, a talker, a helper, funny, courageous, protective, and composed. So I wonder, dear listener, whether you see yourself as either a good man and or a real man, or both. As you think about this question of what kind of men you are, another way of looking at this is who has influenced you. Who have you looked up to as a source of encouragement in some way? Have you had someone in your life who shows you how to live with integrity or hope, or someone who's shown you great optimism and compassion and determination? You know, role models can come in all sorts of ways in all different parts of your life. They could be high school teachers or sporting coaches or celebrities or mothers or partners or leaders in your community, fathers and your peers, even just general ordinary people from day-to-day life. Role models can also be people dead, alive, fictional or real. So anybody with something that's positive to offer you, be it advice or life skills. Over in the UK, Gillete did a campaign not too long ago that was called My Role Model. A study of male role models was topped by a poll of UK men, found that 1 in 4 named their father as their top role model, ahead of people like Barack Obama, Muhammad Ali and Bobby Moore. And while 1 in 3 of the younger men named their father as a role model, just 1 in 4 men who were 55 and over did the same. Many of the men also voted their grandfather into third place, with people like Winston Churchill was the only person who ranked higher in that particular category. Now, this particular study looked at 10 traits that made up a good role model, and they included things like honesty, strong values, being hardworking, good ethics, kindness, humility, generosity, a sense of humor, encouraging, and being talented. And when you look at these traits, they're not particularly gendered. It's not really just about men at all. And I wonder if your role models are alive, and if so, what traits they have given you, and even the role models you've had in your life that aren't alive, or maybe they're also fictional. What traits have they given you? The phrases "man up" and "be a man" just may be outdated and certainly potentially destructive, because the risk is they equate strength with gender and they negate emotion and vulnerability. Being a man has many meanings. Values can overlap. Some are more destructive and some constructive. And we all have good and bad influences in our lives. And certainly we are all a work in progress. In this episode, we've looked at the question, what kind of man are you? And within this question, maybe there are many others. Do we conform to gender paradigms imposed upon us? Are we able to enjoy life in a more open and fulfilling way without boxing ourselves in? I believe that as men we can be tough, pragmatic, in control, solution-focused, expressive, empathetic, and compassionate. And maybe we can throw away any kind of stereotypes that restrict who we are. I encourage you to know yourself and be yourself and embrace the challenges that may come with your identity. Being a man is not just about gendered values. Our world needs loving, compassionate, and respectful human beings, and maybe everything else grows from that. Let me leave you with two questions. What kind of man are you? And who in your life is your role model? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know on Instagram or via the Man Talk Facebook page. The links are in the show notes. Thank you for listening. If you like what you hear, please tell your mates. Give me a review of wherever you found the podcast. And if there's any particular topic that you would like to hear on the Man Talk podcast, please let me know and email me at hello@mantalk.com.au, and I'll catch you again in the next episode of Man Talk.